Thank you, thank you. Thank you, Scott. I told him last time I saw him, I just love that. I love that song. I feel like that's the best you've ever played that song. You're really nailing the finger picking on that. It was so beautiful. That was wonderful. Hi, everybody. I'm Ken Fales. I'm a practitioner here and operations manager. And I'm just delighted to be here with you all. Hi, everybody online. Happy Sunday. Nice to be here. Nice to be here. So today we're talking about the impossibility of grievance. The whole month is we're talking about the power of forgiveness. And we started with talking about anger and fear, and now we're into grievance. And it's just, we're really in the mud here. No. Yeah, let's get into that mud. Ooh, I love it, I love it, I love it. Remember going out and getting muddy as a child, just not caring and getting muddy? Oh, I love it. Next week we'll talk about forgiving the self, and then we'll end the month with a talk on forgiving God. So stay tuned. There's a line in A Course in Miracles that says you can have a grievance or a miracle. You cannot have both. That sounds a little severe, doesn't it? After all, grievances can feel justified. Someone betrayed us or dismissed us. Someone took what was not theirs to take. A promise was broken. A kindness was not returned. Or much worse than all those things was done. Right? In some way, we or someone we love were treated unjustly, and the mind builds a case. And that case may be factually correct. But this teaching, the science of mind, it's not asking whether something painful happened. It's asking what we're choosing to do with it now. And ultimate truth, like in Nico's reading this morning from Ernest Holmes, said there is no fear in love. It didn't say there might be a little fear in love, or occasionally there's fear in love. There is no fear in love. And ultimate truth like that, which is what I'm interested in, what I assume we are all here for, is uncompromising. Something is either capital T truth or it's not. There is no kind of truth. Right? Half-truths belong to the lowercase t truth. When we talk about my truth and your truth, that's where you can have half-truths. But ultimate truth, capital T truth, it's simple. It is or it is not. And that can feel severe, even threatening. It can be hard to hear, and it can be even harder to accept. When we feel more comfortable holding on to the familiar, or when reaching for or stepping into the unknown is frightening, then truth can feel like the enemy. So when someone like me, says that a grievance or a grudge or a lack of forgiveness protects you from nothing, and in fact blocks your awareness of your true self, it can feel safer to just reject that. And the storytelling ego that we talked about last week, it tells you that you need your grievance, because if you let it go, you could get hurt again. Or it tells you that you need the grudge, or the other person will think they've won. Can't have that. Can't have that. It tells you that you cannot forgive because what happened was wrong. And that's a fact. Right? It tells you that some things are simply unforgivable. And if that's where you are, that's where you are. Right? No one's here to judge you. No one's here to tell you that you need to change right this very minute. But I am here to speak about ultimate truth, and ultimate truth can be sometimes uncomfortable. A grievance is more than the memory of wrongdoing. It is a decision to keep the injury from that wrongdoing and that pain active. It is the mind saying, because this happened, my peace must wait. Because they did this, my freedom depends on them. Because the past was painful, the present must remain imprisoned by it. But Ernest Holmes teaches us that principle is not bound by precedent, which is to say, for instance, the principle that God is love, or the principle of oneness. Those aren't bound by anything that's happened in the past. The experience of the truth of those principles waits only on our willingness to allow them to be true. And so it's not the past that binds them, it's our thinking, it's our beliefs. And this is why grievance and miracle can't occupy that same inner space. Because a grievance insists that nothing can change. And a miracle is the recognition that change is possible now. After all, a miracle is really only love, which is not miraculous. But it can seem miraculous because we've come to believe so much about ourselves and the world that has never been true. And the miracle doesn't rewrite the past. It just releases the past's claim on our present reality. So like I said, the title of this talk is The Impossibility of Grievance. But grievance certainly appears possible, right? Most of us can summon one without much effort. We remember the words, we remember the deeds, and we can easily reconstruct the scene, and that old anger starts to rise as though the offense happened 5 minutes ago, right? But grievance is impossible in the mind of God. It has no foundation in the capital R reality of our being. It can be rehearsed in thought and strengthened through that repetition. It can be projected on the world, but it can't alter the divine wholeness within us. God's mind is my mind to the degree that I'm willing to experience it. So the sun doesn't stop shining because clouds gather, and the presence within us doesn't become damaged because our awareness has become clouded by resentment. The grievance may obscure our peace, but it cannot destroy it. It might interrupt our experience of love, but it can't remove love from our nature. Right? Spirit has never agreed to our being in bondage. And we are free to believe that another person holds the key to our release. We're free to wait for an apology, an admission of guilt, an explanation, or a punishment. But all the while, the door to that cell that grievance has constructed around our awareness is unlocked because we're free, right? Ultimately, we're free. Grievance is impossible because the power we have given it has no source in God. No past event possesses the spiritual authority to divine our present identity, again from Nico's reading. No person has the power to separate us from the source of peace. It's true that people can affect our circumstances, they can wound our feelings, harm our bodies, hurt our loved ones, disrupt our sense of safety without our permission. We don't need to deny that any of that can happen, but what happened cannot determine the state of our soul unless we continue to give it that authority. And aren't boundaries healthy? Isn't it okay to walk away sometimes? Yes. And yes. A boundary is not a grievance. Walking away is not forgiveness. It's not a failure of forgiveness. It might be forgiveness, but it's not a failure of forgiveness. The spiritual question, right, is not whether I stay or leave. The question is, what consciousness am I bringing to the choice? Am I being directed by wisdom, or am I allowing the old injury to keep making my decisions for me? To use Christ's metaphor, turning the other cheek is not an instruction to remain in danger or to submit to repeated harm. It's an instruction about consciousness. I can leave without hatred. I can establish a boundary without condemnation. I can protect myself without making another person's behavior the source of my identity. The form of the decision belongs to wisdom, and the consciousness behind it belongs to love. And again, as we talked about last week, fear is not always the enemy. Sometimes fear is the storytelling ego predicting a danger that's not there. Sometimes fear is the storytelling ego predicting a danger that sometimes fear is the body accurately recognizing that something is not safe. Presence helps us tell the difference. Principles not bound by precedent, which means neither the past nor our spiritual vocabulary gets to make the present choice from us. For us, we listen to our intuition, we discern, and we choose. And you can truthfully say that you were victimized. Spiritual work doesn't require you to lie about what happened, but being victimized is the experience. It's not the totality of your identity. The experience belongs to your story. It does not define the truth of who you are. When it does, then grievance becomes a form of identity. We often think that we're holding a grievance against another person, but more often we're holding it together with an identity we've formed around the injury, right? I'm the one who was betrayed. I'm the one who was overlooked. I'm the one whose family failed me, or I'm the one who never got a fair chance. We build that identity around our hurts, and that's what keeps them in place. And the pain might be real, but that identity is incomplete. It reduces the vastness of who we are, which is an expression of God, into this single little chapter of our story. And so the deeper self, right, that divine self, it can't be contained inside that little chapter. It existed before the injury. It remained whole during the injury and is calling us beyond the injury now. And we're not being asked to deny our humanity. New thought is not an invitation to cover pain with pleasant language. Denial is not healing. But pretending that cruelty was kindness, it only makes us dishonest. So the miracle begins with accepting what is, right? This happened, and it hurt. In fact, it may have changed my life. But I will not let it become my God. Because what we believe or accept as having final authority over our peace becomes a kind of God to us. The person we resent or the thing that happened that we just can't get over, it ends up occupying more of our inner attention than the divine presence we claim to trust. We may say that God is our source, but privately we believe that someone else controls our freedom. So a grievance becomes more than just anger that we're holding on to. It becomes misplaced spiritual authority, where we give away spiritual authority to the grievance. And the miracle, which again is love, that restores authority to its rightful place. People sometimes resist forgiveness because they confuse it with approval. They think forgiveness means saying the offense didn't matter, or it means abandoning justice, or reopening a dangerous relationship. It doesn't mean any of those things. Forgiveness doesn't require reconciliation. It doesn't erase consequences. It doesn't forbid boundaries. Sometimes the most loving act is a clear no. No. Sometimes our intuition guides us to just close a door. That sentimentality might have us leave open. Forgiveness means that we refuse to use another person's unconsciousness as a weapon against our own peace. And we release grievance because freedom is our spiritual inheritance. We release because resentment is too expensive. It consumes attention, it distorts our perception, it recruits the present into an argument with the past. It continues to replicate a reality we don't want to experience. We've changed. We've grown. We know more clearly who we are, and we are ready to leave the prison cell that grievance created. We know more clearly who we are, and so we know more clearly who they are. They might not know, but we do, right? We know their actions were a cry for love. A misguided, wounded, lost, terrified cry for love, and we recognize that love requires no action on our part. It simply is. And we can let it be. There's no victory in remaining emotionally chained to someone we believe has harmed us. Punishing them in our imagination doesn't restore what was lost. It just extends the life of that original injury. The miracle described in A Course in Miracles is not a supernatural event. It's a correction in perception, a shift from fear to love, from separation to unity, from condemnation to spiritual sight. When we choose the miracle, we choose love. And we're not required to see harmful behavior as acceptable. We simply become willing to see that the person who caused harm is more than the harm they caused, and that we are more than the harm that we endured. And that's not always an instant transformation. I know that, right? Sometimes forgiveness comes in layers. We release the grievance in the morning, and we retrieve it back by lunch. and then we release it again, and that's practice. Each time that old story returns, we can ask, what am I choosing right now? A grievance or a miracle? Do I want to be right about my imprisonment, or do I want to be free? What would I see if I looked through the eyes of Spirit? And we don't need to force an answer. Willingness is enough. Willingness is enough. We can pray, I'm willing to see this differently. I don't know how to release it, but I'm willing to stop making it the source of my identity. I'm willing to see the truth that sets me free. And then the miracle, maybe it arrives as compassion or emotional distance. It might be the courage to speak up, or the wisdom to remain silent, or the strength to leave. It might show up as the sudden recognition that the person's behavior came from a consciousness so constricted by fear that they could not give what they did not possess. In other words, they knew not what they were doing. And that understanding doesn't excuse the behavior. It prevents the behavior from continuing to live inside of us. So you can do this now or you can do this later, but if you bring to mind a grievance that you're just ready to loosen, you don't have to be ready to give it up, but just you're ready to loosen it. Maybe not necessarily the deepest wound of your life, or maybe just one you're willing to place on that altar of transformation. You name what happened. Just name it plainly, right? Don't over-dramatize it, and don't minimize it either. Just name what happened. Notice what you have concluded because of it, right? Maybe you concluded that you're unworthy, or you're unsafe, that you're unwanted, or powerless, or alone. It's that conclusion that keeps the pain in us operating. So ask, is this conclusion, is it the truth of God about me? And if the answer is no, then it's not the truth of you. And you can replace that old conclusion with a spiritual fact. I remain whole. I am guided. I am worthy of love. I'm free to choose again. My peace comes from the presence within me. And then just bless that situation, right? Just allow the light of love within you to hold it. And say, I release you from the role I assigned you in my mind. I release myself from the identity I built around this pain. I give the past back to the past, and I choose again. I choose the miracle. I choose love. The spiritual path, it asks some hard questions, right? Do we want freedom more than we want grievance? And we cannot and should not answer that question abstractly. We answer it actually every time the story returns. We're always answering it. We answer it in the conversations we replay, the judgments that we keep, the evidence or the scores that we keep track of, right? We answer it when we decide today, will today be used to extend yesterday? Or will it be used to reveal something new? Because you can have a grievance or a miracle. You cannot have both. You can have a grievance or love. You cannot have both. And that's not a threat, right? That's a statement of spiritual law. We cannot look through the lens of condemnation and see wholeness at the same time. We can't cling to the old verdict and enjoy a new perception. One must be surrendered for the other to appear. And the good news is that the miracle is always available. It doesn't have to be earned. It's just waiting for you to make that choice, the same as peace waits beneath all the noise and light waits behind the clouds. It waits as our divine identity waits beneath every false conclusion we've accepted about ourselves. So today, we allow our perception to be changed. Hallelujah, right? Hallelujah. I choose again. We deny the grievance the power to determine who we are. And we don't call injustice good, and we don't wait for the past to change. We allow our perception to be changed now. And in that holy shift, I know it was close, but it's shift. In that holy shift. I thought about transformation, but I felt like right here we needed a moment of levity in the end. In that holy shift, we discover what has always been true. Love is our identity. Wholeness is our nature. Peace is our inheritance. And the miracle is just our choice to be who we are. Let's just go into prayer. God is here. God is here. God is here. Right here. Right now. Freedom is here. Right here. Right now. Love is here. Right here. Right now. Release and transformation is here, right now. It is all around each one of us. It is in, through us. It is as us. We are that. We are that transformation. We are that peace. We are that love. We are that freedom. We are that sweet, graceful release. And so I declare today that we let go and let God, that we embrace that willingness, that we take that one step, knowing that wherever that step takes us, God goes with us. That God directs our steps, will guide us, indeed will carry us if we let go and surrender to that which we are. And so I declare that we do let go, that we do surrender, that we have a free and full realization of the divine life within us. Hallelujah. Doesn't it feel sweet? Doesn't it feel so, so good? It fills me with joy. It fills me with gratitude because God is God. The truth is true. God is I am. God is I am. God is I am. And so I release this word knowing that it is so. Knowing that God is. The truth is true. And together we affirm, and so it is. Thank you very much.